All right. It's Milky Way Wednesday again, and it's a weird feeling for me. This is a stupid thing to comment on because you don't need this in your video, but I'm doing it anyway for my own selfish reasons. But I'm recording this just moments after finishing recording the other one, and that's not how I do Milky Way Wednesday. I hang out with you, I talk to you, I do things fun with you, and this is not as fun. I gotta tell you, this is not as fun. But we're having a lot of good lessons here, emphasized from videos maybe you didn't watch and didn't notice over there on my YouTube channel. Well, what's your YouTube channel? Who are you anyway? Hey everybody, I'm Aaron King with Photog Adventures. Welcome into Milky Way Wednesday. I am going to be pointing out videos that got some views. It's weird, you know, some of these things that these 2-minute tips can be million views because it's so great. And then the kind of focused Milky Way tip for 2 minutes ends up with no views at all. I mean, I got 4,000 views on the best lens for Milky Way photography, 4,000 views for how to choose shutter, 10,000 for the ISO, 3.6 thousand for Milky Way in focus, the ones I talked about last week. But this week, man, they are not popular at all. 1.8 for miscellaneous settings, who cares? 3.5, Milky Way is not blue. That got the most hits. What are some best practices in Milky Way? 1.9 and 2.7. These are weak. These are weak hits. I mean, look at the typical popular uploads. 201,000. Of course, that's Roy Spare teaching about Milky Way photography. My lesson on post-processing, 156,000. My lesson on focus, 153,000. How to use PHOTOPILLS, 144,000. Most likely, all of you watching right now are watching because of one of these 4 videos, or maybe some of the other ones that got some good tens of thousands of views. But man, these Milky Way tips did not hit it off. They have not. And live streams, they never do, but that's for the live audience. I measure that in the numbers of like 57 live audience members. I'm stoked about that. I mean, how many of you are talking right now in the chat that's not active on the video, but you're seeing the chat there in the window? How many of you are talking right now? How many friends from previous Milky Way Wednesdays are hanging out right now? I miss you. Maybe I got to a point where I could watch with you this Wednesday night. I am in this Wednesday night. I'm in Brookings again. I was in Brookings last time. That's funny. We go to Bandon, Brookings. I'm going to take that off of there. Go from Bandon, Brookings over to Crater Lake for 2 nights. And I stay and wait for the following week to have another workshop from Crater Lake for 2 nights, back to Brookings, and then up to Bandon. And it's just turning out that Wednesday is Brookings every time. We start on Tuesday, went to Brookings, start on Monday and Tuesday, went to Brookings on Wednesday night. That's crazy. So from Brookings, I won't be joining you because I know I'll be out for the sunset there at Secret Beach, and I won't be there live. I'm able to have any cell signal out there. If I have a little bit, I'll try and text something to you all. But right now, thanks for watching this premiere, this video that's coming out at 7 p.m. Remember, I have 4 more to go. The schedule is down below, so I won't go into it right now. Let's just get right into the lessons today. Some are very simple and maybe not exciting, but there are things that you need to consider. But I'll end with something exciting, my Milky Way composition tips, that also has a PDF download that you can get access to. So let's get going with our first one today. It's about time for a simple lesson, not one that I have to jam into 2 minutes, but one that literally only takes 2 minutes to explain. The first tip is, it's a setting that you want to turn off on your camera. On my Canon, it's called long exposure noise reduction. You can see right here, mine is off. And right here, that's where it's going to be. You can see my noise reduction is off. You can fix the noise reduction in post. You really don't need it. The second thing that you need to do, high ISO speed noise reduction. That high ISO speed noise reduction is kind of a terrible idea.
Or whatever your camera calls it.
Basically, the way that it fixes it is by adding a little blur. At least my Canon 5D Mark IV does. And by adding that little blur to it, it'll cause softness. And if you can expect softness, you're not going to want it in your shots. You can fix noise reduction after. Again, let's pull in the banner right here. You will have a chance in post to fix any noise that you've got. And you can always do stacking to fix noise. Don't let your camera body make those decisions for you on how to fix your noise. You fix your noise in post in your favorite way to do so. I completely recommend that you turn off these things in your camera before you ever capture a Milky Way shot. And the last thing is something you should already be thinking of doing anyway, but if you aren't already, do this. Capture in RAW. Use RAW format. Make sure you're capturing a RAW image so that you can go in there and do all the post-processing steps that you can. You don't want to have anything lost. You want to change the temperature and the color of the Kelvin and the white balance all in post. You don't want to shoot in a JPEG format. Let the post-processing be in your hands, not in your camera body's hands. Unless you really love letting the camera do it, and then go for it, fine. But I fully recommend RAW, shoot in RAW, turn off your noise reduction for high ISO speed, turn off your noise reduction for long exposure. Let that be something you fix. Again, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. Alrighty, let's stop talking to Aaron King for a moment and talk to Aaron King for some more moment. All right, don't fall. All right. You know, I am starting to miss that beard. I kind of thought that when I had a little baby face, I'm looking really pale too. I felt like this setting was fine until I see myself compared to that one. Just so really bright right now, but who cares? We don't have any time to fix. Make it a little bit darker. That helps. It's funny because I felt like it was too dark, so I went back up to ISO 800. I'm not loving it. I gotta fix something on that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, back to the focus. This situation of changing these few settings are probably things that you've already done in your camera and already considered it. Let's just look at the first one, and that is the noise reduction, the long exposure noise reduction. You don't want to wait for your camera. You just don't want to wait for it. You want to let it capture and go to your next shot, especially if you're doing panoramas, especially if you're doing star tracking and you're tracking for a minute and a half. You don't want to do a minute and a half long exposure. Let yourself fix the noise in post. Don't worry about that at all. High ISO, that might be called that in your camera, or you might have another term for it, but it's just basically ISO noise reduction for being up higher in the ISO numbers. It's not necessary. Don't do it. Just turn it off. Control that on your own. And the emphasis that I want to make, if anything, on this section is that you should fix the noise in post. Look at the duck-faced freak over there. Fix the noise in post. It's just so easy to do. You have all these options and incredible technology with like maybe even just pulling in a third-party program like I'm forgetting right now, Topaz. Topaz denoise is brilliant. It's so nice. And if you really want to help your noise, just stack the image and then work on a stack later. In fact, we'll talk about that in a few weeks, talking about how to use Sequator and Starry Landscape Stacker. No, my computer's over there is a Mac. So we're doing Sequator today, which is great because that's the free program. If you have a Mac, you're stuck with Starry Landscape Stacker, which is better. So you're stuck with the better option if you have a Mac. So don't be too sad. All right, so this was just a very simple topic. While you're watching this next video, I'm going to go fix how just blue-white I am. I swear that's supposed to be more warm. I'm not liking it. Let's fix it. I think I've been having a problem here all year long. Enjoy this next video. The Milky Way is not blue. Yes, Roger Clark, you're right. The Milky Way is not blue, and I don't advocate that you should make your Milky Way blue. But I am an advocate and proponent of you making the Milky Way final post-processing the color of your choice. This is all artistic. There isn't really a wrong answer unless you're trying to represent the exact accurate color of the night sky. And in that case, check out Roger Clark's website. You can read all of this right here. Let's get into discussion about what your color balance should be set for as you're doing your Milky Way photography. My number one tip is that you choose a Kelvin. You can choose tungsten, you can choose this, and it ends up putting you at a Kelvin number. But I recommend just going straight to the Kelvin numbers where you have the custom dial, and you should choose one that you want to go with and stick with it. Why stick with it? When you go to a location and you put your camera back to that color balance and you look through it, oh, look, there's some air glow. Oh, look, I can see that I even have some red air glow. You're going to get used to your color and you're going to recognize things. And being consistent is going to make it so much easier for you. If you're a complete beginner and you just want something to give you a starting point, I would say go with anything of these numbers. 3800 Kelvin, 4000 Kelvin, 4500 Kelvin, 5000 Kelvin. All of those options work well. I stuck with 3800 Kelvin. There's no reason not to. I'm shooting in RAW. I can fix fix it in post. Check out these examples: 4098, 4143, 3849, 4110. You will get different outcomes in your post-processing, so don't sweat it. Choose your favorite setup and stick with it. Color balance is important, but honestly, the color that you choose in post-processing is way more important than the color you choose in your camera when you're capturing the shot. Just stick one and stick with it, and then go from there. And as long as you're shooting in RAW, you can change it in post. Thanks guys for watching another tune. All right, okay, I think I found a level. Oh, that's getting brighter. Was that actually what I wanted? Is it that bright? Maybe it's fine. Hopefully you notice a difference, and I'll notice a difference when I watch this in post later, but I really went full on warm where I used to be halfway. It does seem a little bright, but hey, let's just enjoy the fact that I'm warmer now. Going in, it's so weird. I'm so used to seeing a whiter blue light, but I think I prefer this. Aaron, just focus on this on your own time. Fixing the color afterwards is not usually a problem. You could have any choice. You know, I've been doing a sunset shot, and I'm up at 6,500 Kelvin, and I forgot to turn it off in time for my Milky Way shots. In fact, I just worked with one of the people who went to a workshop with me. We pulled up his images in our post-processing class, that Zoom call that I do, and his image was entirely yellow, all sunset, warm, and everything, and it worked fine. Of course it worked fine. He shot in RAW, and so he had no problem fixing that color. And, you know, I mean, he would have been making Roger Clark very proud with how warm his shot was. We brought it back to the blue side, a little bit towards the blue. It's just the problem, and the only time that I've ever noticed an issue with the white balance is when I'm on auto white balance. And that has only ever been a problem when I'm doing a panorama with auto white balance. With that panorama frame on that white balance, looking at that mostly dark trees and the sky, then I turn left, there's more sand dune in my shot and less tree. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, let me adjust the white balance for that sand dune. And then I go over left, it's like, oh, let me change my white balance for this part of the sand dune. Or this part of the sand has no shadow, all reflected light. Let me go change my white balance to that. And from the nulls, I captured a bunch of frames on a panorama that all had this weird puckering and changes in the edges of my PANO stitch. I tried to figure out how to fix it. I went through on each image, even though they all had starter kelvins of different Kelvin numbers, you know, 4100, 3900, 4200, 44, 38, 37. They were all a little bit different, you know, 3765, 3795, 3842, you know, it's just all very minor differences as it auto white balanced to a different Kelvin. And completely configuring each one quickly before I do my PANO stitch, all the 4200 or something, still didn't take away some of the differences in between the images, and I do not know why. But when I've captured panoramas with a very consistent Kelvin, this is 4200, this is 3800, and I captured each and every frame at 3800, in post I never had any of those issues. And so that's the only time I've really seen choosing Kelvin beforehand or not choosing your Kelvin beforehand cause a problem that was tough to fix. The only time. The rest of the times you can fix it with your raw image and have no trouble whatsoever. So don't really panic. The key tip here is just to pick one and stick with it. 3500. Well, that's really low, but 3,500 to 5,000, somewhere within there. If you want to make Roger Clark happy, start at 4,500 to 5,000. If you want to make yourself happy with a little bit of blue favoring, like I'm biased towards blue, I go down to 3,800. When I first started doing Milky Way photography, I was kind of changing it each night. I met Royce Bear up at Mirror Lake, and he said his favorite's 3,800 Kelvin. And I'm like, if it's good enough for Royce and he's this good, I'll do 3,800 Kelvin. And I bet there's one or two of you who've heard me say 3,800 Kelvin is what I choose. And if it's good enough for you, I'll do 3,800 Kelvin. It's not like you have that informed of a decision here. You just have it works for them, I'll choose that too. So when I tell people now, when they ask me, I do 3,800 Kelvin. Royce Bear is now doing 4,400 Kelvin. That's his favorite. So pick somewhere between there as your favorite. And they either in front of me choose 3800 Kelvin to be nice to me, or they pick Royce Bear because I put someone out there who I respect and you probably respect as well, and say, hey, you know, this is a guy who's awesome. He does 4400 Kelvin. And so they choose either his or mine. And it doesn't hurt you at all. Just be consistent. The fun part is when I go out to a shot and I capture at 3800 Kelvin and I look in my frame after a capture, I go, oh, wow, I can see all that green air glow. I'm used to the color. I know what to expect out of 3800 Kelvin, and so I see the minor differences, and I've been consistent ever since. In post-processing, my Kelvin changes. Usually hangs around 41 to 44. That's how my post-processing ends up. And sometimes my color choice has been based off of how the foreground is looking. If I have a low-level light going and the rocks are not, they're too orange and not yellow-orange enough, I'll bring my Kelvin on a global scale and the whole image down to like 39, 38 to bring those rocks up. That's not considering the sky at all in some of those decisions. So your decisions will be different based off of what you see. Just pick one. Be consistent. And the only time it's critical is when you're doing a panorama. Don't be on auto white balance. Pick one and stick with it for every single frame of that panorama to help you in the stitch and to help you in post-processing. All right, cool. Clip number 3. Capture practices. The first one is the real critical one, and this one is a 2-second timer. Go into your settings and change your drive setting to be a 2-second timer. If you have a shutter release, still have a 2-second timer, because then you can make sure that you're not going to be doing or adding any vibration to your shot. The second thing is making sure you don't move around your tripod. As you're capturing, you've got 8 seconds, 13 seconds, 15 seconds of shutter going off. Don't mess it up by letting yourself bob back and forth on your feet. Don't kick the tripod, obviously, but if you're in sand and your feet were right here, you capture and then you move back, you know what happens in sand. Things start to move. Your tripod might be holding up in that sand, but when you move your foot, it's going to shift. Do not move during your shot. So be careful not to move around your tripod. Now, for some group advice. Group advice is basically if you have others in the area that you showed up to or they showed up after you, here's some piece of advice to make sure that you are playing well and nicely with your other photographers. Get to the point that when you use this guy, you know precisely where buttons are. Okay, change that. The other thing is make sure you're back at your LCD screen that you change your brightness all the way down. Don't use it at its full brightness because others around you are going to have you showing up in their shot, or you're going to see light from your camera popping around the terrain and they don't want to have that in their shot. So be polite, turn the LCD brightness down. The last thing I would recommend is that if you have tape, gaffer's tape, make sure the front end of your camera and sometimes the back end that you tape off all the lights. You don't want that light going off next to someone else who's firing at the close sand dune in front of them, and now your red light has spread everywhere. So be sure to tape that guy off. Awesome. You do these things and you will be loved by others who are out there with you. Thanks again for watching. I'm Aaron King. If you guys want to know more, okay. Oh, that's Aaron King. Let's not show that. Blip, blip, blip. Okay, so I got to remember all those tips, honestly, but let's start off with the ones in groups and taping off, because I just got ready over here to show you that. So I just want to, this is stuff that you should consider when you're capturing your image. When you are in a group, taping it off is far more important, and when you're not in a group, it doesn't really matter. See this tape I have right here? It's over the red light. So I'm going to capture an image of this wall. So let's go into live view. What are my settings for? I am set for making a movie now, but I want auto. That's right, I have my kids playing around with this. And I also have a lens cap on, classic. Okay, so now I'm not gonna do 10 seconds. Let's bring this down. Let's bring my ISO up way. Let's go auto, yeah, just do auto. And bring my shutter even down more. Okay, cool. So I'm taking a picture. See that red light? Oh, interesting, it went out of focus, but it kind of helped that red light show up. That red light happens as you're taking your picture and as it's writing to your card. And so that red light will be annoying. So you move your tape, like I have permanent tape on here, just enough that it covers that red light. So Let's do something. Come on, settings here. Oh, I'm not skipping this ad. I don't deserve the money for that one. That was an accident. Of course, that happens all the time where YouTubers get money from people who forget to skip an ad. So, woohoo. I want to do this. Turn that off. What are you talking about? My phone thinks I'm driving. I'm not driving. I'm in my house. Devices, and turn off this. All right. And studio lamp. So now we're in the dark. So you're going to see this much more. That red light. So I need to make sure I tape off all of that. In fact, that was with a little bit of taped off. So while it's running, I will tape things. When I have a workshop, I will tape over what they have while they're taking the picture. So now that is not causing any light. We got rid of that. The other thing to consider is on the front of your camera. And I have a long strip right here that hasn't been taken off in probably 4 years. And this is, hey, it's not going off, Aaron. Well, it's because of the other best practice. When you change your drive mode to be 2-second timer. And now on my 2-second timer, it's pretending like I'm standing in front of it. And it's informing me. Where is the red? Right here. Oh, wasn't fast enough. It's easier on a tripod, that's for sure, to put your tape in there. And so I'm going to put it over that spot. Get ready a little bit. Take the picture. Okay. All right. So as the picture was taken, I could see that I was blocking it. Okay, cool. I will leave this Canon 6D like that. So now I've double checked during the capture. I don't see any light happening. So then the back of the LCD screen and my face being lit up. That tip about changing your setting so that you don't blow, your companions around you out. Here's my LCD brightness right now. There's the lowest setting. Here's the brightest. In fact, if I minimize this window, I have a little bit less light and more of the light that's coming off of my camera. Lowest light, brightest light. This is hardly a problem unless you're in their shot. And if you're in their shot doing a time lapse, you can just keep that off and then all your taped off edges won't bug their shot at all. But if you're in their shot and you're reviewing pictures in between, you may consider turning it down. I actually recommend you keep it up. I know that people say turn it down so you don't mess with your eyes. The lowest setting on here is messing with your eyes, your night vision. It's not red. It's actually going to mess up your night vision. So don't worry. Unless you're going to never look at your phone and never look at your back of your camera, you're going to mess up your night vision. So if you look at your phone, night vision gone. You look at the back camera, night vision gone. So don't worry about your night vision. Don't spend a lot of time worrying about keeping that night vision based off of this setting. The only time it can be useful, and I've heard people talk about it, but I don't really worry about it, is that, look at the picture from here to see if you've got enough exposure. Because I'm doing my histogram the way I'm doing, and the way that I handle my foreground is either really, really long exposure or low-level lighting, I don't need to change this setting up or down to see if I've exposed well for my Milky Way after all. I see the histogram and I know that I've exposed well for the histogram. So I don't need to use that technique of going low. So speaking of low, let's make this not so low in here. Woo! Oh, now I can see the orange. The sun is out. All right, so I'm playing with the lens cap while I get used to the new bright levels in this room. Bring. Ooh, let's turn this off. I don't want to lose this battery too much. I'm taking it with me to Oregon. All right, so those settings. Don't move at your tripod. Yeah, it's not a typo. It's not a move a tripod. It's don't move at your tripod. Typically, oh, my fat gut. Typically, darn. Why did my camera turn off? That was weird. I hit my mic and my camera turned off. Typically, the foundation that your tripod legs are on is a firm, sturdy foundation. How firm a foundation, my friends, my brothers and sisters. So this right here is a tripod that is floating in air. No, this, imagine, is sitting in a dirt. And on the dirt area, it's kind of soft. And when I step next to my tripod leg, it's going to do a little. Not like that dramatically, but just a little. And even if it doesn't mess up the shot while it's capturing, you're going to have an image that you take the next image, it's a little off, a little different. So if you want to stack and you don't want it moving, don't move your legs around your tripod while you're capturing. If you're going to do a series of 10 shots for a stack, during all of them, keep your feet planted in the same space and just shoot, 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 shoot. And once you're done with those 10, then move around. Who cares what happens with how the tripod moves? My example of sand is even more extreme, where like I'm in the water, I got my NRS boundary socks on, I'm sitting there in the waves, I've already got waves beating up against the tripod legs, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to start moving my legs while my capture's going. Don't. It's obvious that that's going to shift your camera, especially when you remove a foot and now everything fills in that hole. Yeah, don't do it. Don't move at your tripod. If you have a friend, don't walk up to the tripod and stand next to their leg. Even if you don't touch the leg, you might have messed up the shot by standing next to it. It's a courtesy thing. Then it depends on the conditions of the terrain that you're in, on whether it's an actual thing to worry about. All right, so what video was that? Was it image number 2? I think it was. So now clip number 3. Nope, that's the one we just watched. Clip number 4. Milky Way composition. Some of you may be struggling with this, so I wanted to give you a foundation to start from. Number 1. Break the planes. We separate our grid of the image in a rule of thirds. You got lines going across the third that's a vertical, line that's horizontal, and at these thirds you can cross them with elements, a tall structure, or something coming from the right to the left. That's making it much more strong. Number 2, balance the positive space with the negative space. There's going to be negative elements in your framing that you don't want, and positive elements. Your Milky Way, your really cool foreground, anything that you've light painted, those are all positive elements. Everything else is negative space. And if you can balance the two together in your final crop, in your final production of the image, you'll have a much stronger composition. Number 3, weight on the left. This is the most biased for Northern Hemisphere Milky Way than any of the other tips. So while you're looking at me from your perspective, the Milky Way here is on the right side, and this space right here on the left is empty. And if you have something with weight, some structure, some interest right there, that weight will counter the weight of the core and come together very nicely. Number 4, shape from top to bottom. So looking at, here's the Milky Way coming in, you have some shapes over here or shapes over there that come from the top all the way down to the bottom. So while you're breaking the plane and doing all of that, you've also got something of interest that is going across the plane from top of the frame down to the bottom. 5, framing the core. This is something that you've already got and you've already done most likely. But when you have an element of cool rock sticking straight up, or maybe a thing that causes a frame on the top and the bottom and it looks like a window and you're seeing the Milky Way core through it, that's a great way to bring interest into your image. And not just have a boring Milky Way on a sky, but have something that's framing that Milky Way core in a really cool way. Boom, there we go. That is a very quick way of saying all of that. So, looking at this situation, we have tips that are very specific to Milky Way on the Northern Hemisphere. And one of them's more so than the other, like you heard me say. And the rest of it is just regular composition tips, not a huge surprise. But I just want to emphasize that negative and positive space for the Milky Way core, what's positive, what's negative, as well as some of the other tips. First things first, I want to point you to this, because if you want this, you might click on it now and have it by the time I get to tip number 2, you know? So go over there to that video and you'll see over on Photog Adventures, like if you go to the list, you're going to see my 5 favorite composition tips. When you click on that, you'll see in the description, click more, that there's this link, and you click on that link, it'll open up the MilkyWayPhotographers.com article about the 5 composition tips for Milky Way photography. Then as you get through the ads, you'll see here's a tip sheet sign up, and you click on that, which opens up this window where you can then see that your first name is here, your email address, and send it my way. And then this graphic is sent to you as a PDF, and it's a high-res PDF. In fact, let me open it up on my iPad right now. So here it is on my iPad in my books folder. In fact, I'm going to turn off this PA banner So you don't see Photog Adventures blocking all of that. But this is the PDF, and you can see how when you zoom in, it's got quality graphics. It's not a picture. This is an actual PDF that has vector graphics made in InDesign so that you can see things in detail. In fact, okay, my tip was break the planes. Here's the rule of thirds on the vertical and then horizontal. You can see how these are considered the planes. And then you scroll over to the graphic and you can see my image example in its full res zoomed in. So this is the coolest part of being a PDF. On your phone, you can read all of this really well, and you see all these tips, and you can get this in your hands. Just go and sign up, and then you can hear my emails every week where I say, hey, I'm going live right now. Hey, I got a good deal for my Oregon Coast workshops. If you want to join me for Oregon Coast, I'll be doing some in November that you can do a la carte. And so you probably have already seen, oh no, you definitely have seen the ads. You've seen the ad of me talking about that a la carte option. And hopefully you'll join me. Hopefully you'll come to whatever amount of days that you can, or you'll take me up on the 5 days for only 1,000 deal. So see you out there. So here we are looking at these tips, and let's go back into what they all are. Breaking the planes. It's just easy and simple to say that, but let me just show you the example again in large format. When you have a subject like this is the same night back in 2016, and you can see that I'm still underexposing the Milky Way at this time. And I didn't like this image. There's just something missing. I had some mountains. I even had reflection in the water. I didn't see the core in the water. Most of this cloud and light pollution bloom is what's reflecting in the water with some stars showing up down here. There's just something wrong with this image. And driving down the road, I came across, okay, look, here's what the composition is. On that third, below is all the detail of the foreground, and then 2/3 of the image is all sky with the Milky Way going off like that. When I found this silo that I showed in this example image right here, it's breaking the planes. That silo, same night, was captured here. And you can see how I break the plane simply on the first and almost reach the third plane. And then the Milky Way itself is going through this space. And what a better image this is compared to this one. When you see them side by side and see how it's lacking so much in this one compared to this one, you'll see, how annoying is that? Just no good, nada. Don't enjoy. So when you're looking at trying to fill the empty space around the core, something that is large and will break the plane is a very good consideration. I'm starting to lose my train of thought. Sorry for that. That was kind of gibberish a little bit at the end there. So I'm thinking about the other point, balancing a negative and positive. You want to deal with that negative and positive space. And let's look at this image to talk about the negative and positive. I love how on the PDF I can zoom in and you got a nice high quality res image right there. So I have an interesting crop here. Almost 1/3 of the image is just in shadow, just darkness. And yet it feels balanced because of the shape of the full arch of the Milky Way and a counterbalance of a negative space. So not only did I end up having a similar amount of negative space as positive to be balanced, it shares a shape. It shares in a mirrored shape to the arch of the Milky Way on the top, which made that work so well. Let's look at another image. This one is balancing negative and positive. So what's happening here? What is negative and what is positive? Well, let's use this as an example to show off negative and positive. Here is a picture of the train trestle. Very cool picture. Very cool train trestle, I should say. And a negative and positive space exists right here and here. In fact, let me go ahead and select this and duplicate it. And do I have another train trestle shot? Yeah. Select this and duplicate it. And let's move these side by side. Come on. Oh, yeah, I got to stop doing that. Grab this, pull this down. Okay. So now we're going to look at these side by side. What space do I have? Well, the positive space is the core, and let's get my proper tool out here so it'll make a full circle for me. Here's the core and the Milky Way band continuing up and down on the horizon. The positive space really stretches out beyond the core, and all of this is positive. And if you know and love the Rofyuki like me, you kind of consider that positive as well. But the space that's in this blue section is, okay, let's just do sky. Blue sky is negative, and this section is negative. Then in the foreground, the positive space is in yellow, and everything that is lit becomes positive space. Everything lit is a positive section. And then on the, let's just do, I want a different color of yellow. Let's do this kind of brighter. It's not very visibly different. That's too bright for it. How about brown? All right, brown it is. This part is negative space all throughout, as you can probably guess. All of that is negative foreground space. And it's pretty balanced. It looks like a snake right here, or a turtle eating this and then going to munch on the rest of the train trestle. So this is the turtle silhouette coming in and eating the train trestle and having that negative space right here all be black. That is a negative and positive balance. How balanced is it? It's all right. You can obviously see that if I gave this score of 1 of weight and this a score of 3, this is kind of a score of 4. It kind of seems balanced. I mean, isn't that balanced? There's something not balanced about it. And why is that? When you look at this image all together as a whole, you've really got an emphasis on empty space right here and then tiny empty space here. It's fat on the left of that core and empty, while this really is flat and, it's not breaking the first plane, so it's not all that interesting carrying into the image. So how does this compare to the other train trestle shot? Well, here's my 2 planes. Here's the third. So now I'm starting this train trestle back here, and let's go into my foreground positive and use this yellow. Here's my train trestle starting to be visible, and it's carrying up and carrying up and carrying up. That is actually carrying easily up through both thirds and carrying that image through, and you've got this shape of the underside carrying as well. It does break the plane. You've also got these legs of the train trestle, the supports, vertical pylons, and they're breaking that plane as well. And then when it comes to the core, it is a tiny feature inside there, but one of the key tips was framing. You frame the core. I wish I could have gotten that core even a little bit better, but I still enjoyed this shape right here balancing with this shape right here. Those crisscrossing arcs are interesting. And when it comes to my negative space on the foreground, I only have this space right here, this space right here. Those are all negative. I mean, this little lit spot right there is pretty negative since it's not connected with the image. The previous image had some section that was connected right here, and that made it more of a positive section, where this one isn't providing context of the scenery. This is a little bit, but it all just kind of looks disjointed and doesn't carry too much positive balance weight to it. And that's a subjective opinion of mine. You might look at that and go, that's fine. And, that's fine. We just have very little negative space in the foreground. And when it comes to the sky, let's do that with our blues again. The sky negative space of just up here is barely there. There's hardly any, but it's there and underneath here. So we have taken out most of our negative space of the sky just by virtue of bringing the train trestle foreground into our sky and broken up the monotony of it. And that also helps us to look at the other tip that comes in, that when the Milky Way is being considered, you also want to do weight on the left of the core. This is the very centric to the northern hemisphere side as we get this shape. Oh, I can't draw on this shape right here where it's at that 45 and leaves an open triangle or quadrilateral over here that we're dealing with all this negative space, and putting the weight of a foreground subject there takes up that negative space so well, like as you can see here. But even stronger is the example that I give here, where I have this shape going in on that far left really strong, but then it's going even lower to bring the core some room, and then goes up a little bit at the end and helps bring that core as like a frame. And that shape is perfect for what is number 4, where I have a shape from top to bottom. In fact, both that train trestle picture and this one with the Goblin Valley image show off that. You can see my outline right here of the foreground. I've got a peak up here. I got a lower a valley, and then I have a secondary peak right there. And they all have different tiers of height. The farthest one is the lowest, which is if I had 3 characters in an image, this is what I would do. I would have my main hero. Come off of, yeah, there we go. My main hero would be standing right here. My secondary support character would be there, and then distant crowd would be on there. And that would be the share of height that I would do if I had characters to put in there. In fact, that was my job at Disney Infinity, to do that all the time. In fact, I'll just show it off right now because this is a Milky Way Wednesday. I can do crazy squirrel moments. If you do a Disney Infinity search and do images, you're going to see a bunch of marketing images. Stuff like this. I can't believe that is the #1 image still. That is my least favorite image that we ever made because of one flaw that I'll point out here that I tried to fix. I fixed it, and I sent them in, and I said, Glendale, do not share this image. It's broken. This is the correct one. We're talking like I sent this one in a half an hour. I sent this one in. And they still mass broadcast the wrong image. But anyway, this image is a good example. Oh, that's why it's featured, because it's still featured on the Steam page. Come on. Anyway, okay, look at this. You got our hero of Sully right there. You brought up Bob, nice and big, being carried by Mike Wazowski, and he's up higher than Sully's head. Then we have a background character there. When you look at all of the Disney Infinity marketing images, we are featuring at least 3 characters because it's a big game about different characters from different products. Like we got Jack Sparrow mixed in with Sully, mixed in with Bob. Look at all these characters right there. And when you see the in scene, this is a boring one, not typically what we do, but that's from the announcement trailer. That's why they're all lined up like that. But typically our marketing shots we made like this with 3 characters up in that. One of the newer ones. Here's the one we're showing how you can hold up people. And here's a good example of what I'm talking about. Here's even 4 with one's head really close, mid-ground, and far-ground. And so we have all this stuff in different tiers and different heights as we're working with this image that is going to be a marketing of the game. We want to really push the marketing of the game, and we do that every time. We separate their silhouettes, and we have one further and different heights on their head. They're not all lined up at the same height in the shot, Even when they're close together, we still try and break them up. Here's one nicely, and then they completely turn as mirror images, but that's why they're working out as the same height. So when you're looking at my iPad and you see the top of Sully right here, Bob right there, and Jack Sparrow right there, that worked so strong and took away all the negative space underneath the core and only left the top part with the Roafuki here. This is an image from 2016 June, and it's one of my favorite images that has Aaron learning Milky Way, and it's still high quality with a little bit less quality on the core. I like the amber color matching the foreground, but I wish the Roafuki in the sky was featured just a little bit more. But in all, when I'm taking different shots there, I still like this one the best. So the final tip is that you should frame the core. And this one is a good example. Let me not show that again for a second. Let's just focus on what's right and wrong about these 2 images. You see that this is a cool shot of Owachomo Bridge. I'm not really breaking the plane right here. I'm not framing the core. I don't have an organic shape from top to bottom. It's just hanging out right there. It is breaking the first third, to be honest, but it's just so flaccidly breaking the plane that it's barely up above that bottom third and reaching the middle of the frame. So here's the full frame, and here's the middle of it right there. And, woo, exciting. That is okay. But we have lots of negative space up here, and we have a little bit of negative space right there. So it's like, and then this is all just unseen terrain. Same night, same lighting. All I did was move the camera and then captured this from right underneath Owachomo Bridge. And suddenly it's strong. suddenly I've taken what is a simple image and made it into a great image. And it looks like I can draw on that one. Let me just duplicate it because I don't have one already. I have my Milky Way dancing through the scene, getting intersected by the rock, going off to the right. I do have some negative space to deal with up here. Nice triangle shape of negative space, a triangle pie slice of negative space, and I have negative space underneath and barely fit right there. But with my foreground, I have done a shape from top to bottom, which is just a good look. It's a good feel when you have something like that, that on the top of the frame is interesting, and on the bottom or middle third, bottom third, it's interesting. And when that kind of a line carries through, it's a stronger image. I mean, look at this one. Same rock, but bleh. Nothing as exciting as this, of the previous image where it has, I don't want to draw on that one, where it has this shape going up dramatically and down dramatically. And then this opening in there became a much larger window to then appreciate and enjoy framing the core. And even though this section, I'll draw it with a different one. Let's draw it with the brown. Even though this section down here is very massive, very just complete, lacking in detail, all black, it's really okay. It's nice and balanced. It works out. This image works so much more solidly because of all those elements coming together and getting the right shot. And this was a single image. I didn't stack it. I didn't Star Trek it. You probably can tell because my core is not that vibrant, but it's just enough detail with low-level lighting that you can't do there anymore with the workshop. But Ochomo Bridge, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay, so those are my favorite composition tips that you can get the PDF right here. Just go and sign up. Click on the link that is in the other video. So go to that video. Remember, you're going to want to go over to my YouTube channel and click on the My Favorite Composition video. Help me get past 3,000 views, help me out, and go and get yourself click this link, go into this, find that link in there. And you can also see my description of how I handled each one in here. In fact, this is the YouTube video of me capturing the silo that night. This right here takes you through the story of the nothing water to the silo, all in the same night. And you'll want to watch that video if you haven't seen it yet. That's one of my first 8 videos ever uploaded to the YouTube channel. So that link gets you to this, which then you can sign up, first name, email address, and be a part of the email list as well, and you can get out of it anytime you want. But you can get this PDF. Get this PDF, and I will thank you for it. So, awesome. Man, okay. Milky Way Wednesday number 2 complete. I think we are solid. Any questions? Oh, yeah, you can't ask questions. Anything you want me to do differently? Well, you can't tell me. So I'm going to be gone in the Faroe Islands. I'll stop doing cleanup right now. I'll be gone in the Faroe Islands after this video, no longer in Oregon. Thanks, everybody, for watching Milky Way Wednesday. Thanks for being with me yet again on another not here, but Milky Way Wednesday anyway. And I'll be back next Wednesday talking more about the 2-minute tips and teaching more Milky Way basics for all of us who are just starting and for those of you who just like the reminder. So thanks for being with me tonight. Again, I am Aaron King with Photog Adventures, and I will be back in a week, Wednesday, 7 p.m. right here. See you later.